Class, happy Wednesday, April 22. I hope things are going as well as possible. I hope you're trying your best to make the most of the opportunities we have. I understand that it's difficult to do some of these things, and I don't just mean school, I mean other parts of life too in this current moment. But I challenge you to continue to strive to do your best. Today we're going to talk about how and why Enlightenment ideas spread beyond places like England and France. First thing I would like you to do is do a little bit of Quizlet review. There is an Enlightenment Quizlet that is posted on Google Classroom in the material that says Enlightenment Review Materials. So go to that link for Quizlet, which you will find are various key terms for this unit on the Enlightenment. I believe there are 17 total. Take some time to do that. It will also have the people as well. This will be a good resource for you to use to study for your quiz, which is going to be tomorrow. Second thing we will do is take a little bit of notes on how/why Enlightenment ideas spread. It should not take us very long. Then there are other review materials, which you'll find in the same place that you found the Quizlet, that I would like you to do. None of those things are graded. It is all simply just to help you practice and review for your quiz. At the end of this video, I will explain how you can possibly retake 2 of the quick writes we've done within the past week or so. Your only homework is to finish late work if you have it. That's due Friday 3 p.m. and prepare yourself to study for this quiz that will start. It says Tuesday. That's a typo. It's supposed to say Thursday. So it starts tomorrow. So after you study Quizlet, you can take some of these notes. These words here should be on Quizlet. One is censorship. Censorship is the restriction on access to ideas and information. It is restricting ideas, whether they're in newspapers, whether they're being spoken person to person, or more today, ideas and information that are shared online or in some form of digital format. A really great example of censorship would be what North Korea does, restricting information going into the country and also restricting information that goes out. Another good example would be how teachers use GoGuardian to limit certain websites or to block you or to freeze up your computer. That is all censorship. That is one way you can control the culture and society of a country. This is what absolute rulers would do, and this is what the Enlightenment is challenging. One way it's challenged is at a place called the salon, and we do not mean like beauty parlors that we think of today. Salons back in the Enlightenment, and most of these were in France specifically, were informal social gatherings at which writers, artists, and philosophers would exchange ideas. So you would share ideas at these like parties almost, called salons. That is one way that censorship was stopped and Enlightenment ideas were spread. So these ideas are challenging old ideas about government, about religion, about the economy that took place back in the Renaissance, the Reformation, and more specifically the age of absolutism. In response to the Enlightenment, government and the church tried to censor these ideas because these ideas are giving power to the people, power to the individual, which is being taken away from governments and the church. So to keep their power, they try to use this idea of censorship to prevent these ideas from spreading. Some examples is when they would find Enlightenment thinkers. One example would be Voltaire, whom we talked about. They would throw them in jail. They would also burn books that had these Enlightenment ideas, which was something that the Counter-Reformation had done earlier with people like Martin Luther. Despite these efforts, Enlightenment ideas still spread. As we can see, they're very evident in today's society, especially in the United States. This took place at these informal social gatherings, salons. And the key thing about these salons isn't just the fact that people are meeting and talking about these ideas, but they're exchanging ideas between social classes. Now these salons did not have lower class people, the peasants, the poor people. Those people were not invited to these salons, but the middle class was, which means it's not just the rich, wealthy, powerful people that are thinking this. It's also more average people in the middle class as well. And having the middle class know these ideas helps it spread more effectively. Second key way this happens is through enlightened despots. Enlightened despots are rulers, kings and queens, emperors, empresses, who are enlightened. So they're not their usual absolute ruler who just wants all the power for themselves. These are rulers that actually agree with ideas like the government protecting natural rights and serving the people, like the people having a say and some freedoms when it comes to politics and government. Examples, we talked about Frederick the Great and Catherine the Great. These people would start to catch on and use enlightened ideas with how they ruled. They weren't just absolute rulers, they were enlightened as well. With that being said, in reality, they may be claimed to support these ideas. Their practice, though, doesn't always support it. They might say that they want to protect the people, but in actuality, they're more interested in keeping their own power. Once again, to emphasize, the peasants, the poor people, their life with the Enlightenment doesn't change a whole lot, if at all. However, it will in our next unit when we start talking about revolutions, many of which took place through wars and violence. So that's all the notes we have. What I would like you to do is spend the rest of the time you're working on this class preparing for your quiz. Just like before when you took your test, this quiz will be on a Google form. There will be some multiple choice types of questions, true and false. There will also be a couple of more extended response questions. The quiz is 20 points total. It will freeze and lock your Chromebook the same way that your test did. What that means is today you need to make sure your notes are available to you in a different way than just on your Chromebook. Whether you have a different device you can use, whether you write them down on paper, I don't care how you do it, but just know your Chromebook is going to be locked up when you take this quiz. You are allowed to use notes for this quiz. You may not use other people, partners, or Google to help you take it. You shouldn't need to anyway if you're taking good notes. On Google Classroom, there is a Kahoot and quizzes review quizzes for you. It's in the same place as the Quizlet that you are more than welcome to use. Also, for today only, I will post the link to Socrative Student at the top of the Google Classroom stream. The room name, as always, is Reps R NAR. I will leave a Socrative review quiz open throughout the day. But realize I'm not going to reopen that quiz anytime after today. So take advantage between this video and 3 p.m. today, going through that quiz. None of this is graded. It's just simply review. Your quiz will be posted tomorrow at 10 a.m., but you will have until Friday, 3 p.m. But once again, realize you can't stop it and start it and stop it and start it. Once you start, you'll have to finish because it's going to lock down your Chromebook anyways. So make sure once you start it, you plan on finishing it in the same setting that you're in. For your quick writes, last thing, you are allowed to retake 2 quick writes that we've done over the past week or so. One is the Hobbes versus Locke quick write that you did at the end of last week, and the other one is the quick write you did yesterday about Enlightenment thinkers. What you need to do is edit your original response, fix whatever needs to be fixed, and then resubmit it. I would greatly appreciate it if you could also leave a private comment that tells me that you redid it. Otherwise, on my end, it gets tricky to figure out who did this again and who didn't. Even though this is just a classwork grade for both, you will be allowed to earn back full points, as many as possible, depending on how well you do. However, there is a deadline for this, and that is Friday, 3 p.m. After Friday, 3 p.m., you will no longer be able to retake any of these quick writes. So this is not something you have to do now. You can do this tomorrow. You can do this Friday. Right? Between late work, retakes, and this quiz, you'll have tomorrow and Friday to get those things done. Quick point on the retakes. When I ask you to use paragraph form, and I'm going to be a little bit stricter about how I grade this, the writing part of these responses is a small part of the grade, but it is a part of it. When I ask you to use paragraph form, I need a thesis, which should be your first sentence that tells me the main point, your claim. For the Enlightenment thinkers, it tells me which person you think is the most important. For do you agree with Hobbes or Locke, it tells me whether you agree with Hobbes or Locke. Just do that right away in the first sentence. Make it clear, make it simple. Transitions are using words or phrases that connect key ideas. First, next, also, another, finally. Those are some examples you can use for that. If I ask you for multiple key ideas, I should see at least one transition for the first example and key idea, and a different transition for the second or possibly even third key idea. It also wouldn't be a bad idea to use a transition for when you do your conclusion, which is simply restating what the thesis says, just doing that in a different way, which should be the very last sentence you use. Many of you are already doing this well. Others of you aren't. And like I said, I'm going to be a little bit more strict about how I grade that moving forward. If you have any questions about your quiz, if you have any questions about the retakes or the notes or anything, today is when you should do that. Send me an email. Otherwise, good luck with the work, and I will talk to you more tomorrow. There will be a video tomorrow, so please watch that before you start your quiz or any of the work.